Hi there, and welcome to Ian's N Gauge channel. I'm Ian. In this video I'm going to perform a short review of the N Gauge Society's Hunslet Industrial 060 shunting locomotive. The loco was produced by the N Gauge Society as part of their 50th anniversary celebrations, and was the first powered, ready-to-run model that they released. As can be seen on the NGS website, the model comes in a range of different liveries to suit pretty much any situation you can think of, and were actually used in collieries, steelworks, refineries, quarries, paper mills, and other industrial locations. I decided to go for the Big John blue liveried variant, with the intention of using it in the Ledgetown quarry area of my layout. If you want the exact product code of the loco I'm reviewing, I've put a photo of the end of the box on screen so you can note it down. The loco comes packaged in a hard plastic box that is surrounded by a cardboard sleeve that shows a small amount of information about what's inside. Inside the hard plastic box, the loco is constrained by a two-part moulded plastic insert that keeps the loco safe from rattling around while being transported or while being stored away from the layout. Opening up the plastic insert, other than the loco, there's an accessory pack with half a dozen or so tiny pieces that can be used to enhance the loco's appearance. These include air pipes and chain link couplings, as well as blanking plates that can be fitted into the NEM coupling pockets. There are also instructions included showing where to fit these accessory pieces. The instructions also include some useful DCC commands for things like turning lights on and off, and for switching between inertial running and yard mode. Rather surprisingly, although the instructions advise you to lightly lubricate the model, they do not say where you should apply this light lubrication, which I think is a bit remiss. Neither do they explain how to separate the body shell from the chassis should you want to service the loco more thoroughly. When you start examining the loco, the first thing you notice is how small it is. I mean, it's tiny. It measures just 60mm long, buffer to buffer, and weighs in at just 34 grams. I'm beginning to think that maybe the Big John moniker is ironic. When it comes to power, the Hunslet is propelled by a small coreless motor. This is controlled by a hard-wired DCC chip manufactured by CT Electronic of Austria. The DCC chip allows the loco to run on DC as well as DCC operated layouts, with no blanking plate being required. I was absolutely amazed that the little loco also contains a Stay Alive, which should help it run across dead or dirty areas of track. So, Insulfrog track users like myself should find this an excellent feature. Big John has a flashing roof light, although this is not available on all of the model variants. It also features directional running lights which can be set to 2 intensities while switched on. The loco defaults to inertial running for realistic acceleration and deceleration during mainline operation. However, there is also a yard mode for when direct speed control is preferred, such as when shunting. As well as being predominantly blue, Big John sports bright yellow side panels. I think that the running plate situated above the yellow side panels is made of metal, which helps give the little loco some much needed mass. There is some very good tread detail on the surface of the steps leading up to the running plate, although the running plate itself has a smooth surface. There are very thin red guardrails that have been separately fitted to the front, back and sides of the loco, which are incredibly delicate. I'm not sure whether these are made from plastic or whether they are etched metal, but either way, care is required when handling the loco, as they are basically surrounding it. The Hunslet nameplate is a nicely detailed part that has been separately fitted to the front and rear of the loco. There are also some separately fitted windscreen wipers attached to the front and rear cab windows. The windows around the cab are well detailed and painted, and I believe you can see some detail inside the cab too, although that may be my imagination playing tricks on me. The buffers are made from turned metal and look really good against the red and white striped buffer beams. Most of the details on the bodywork are moulded, like the horn seen here, and the rivet details on the side panelling, and the ventilation grills also present in the side panelling. The paintwork has been nicely done, with lines between colours being sharp and no visible colour bleeding. Paint detail on the side panel door handles stood out to me and was a nice touch. There are only 2 transfers on the loco, one each side showing the words North, West, South Yorkshire NCB alongside the Yorkshire White Rose emblem. These have been applied well and can even be read under close magnification, so have been well printed as they're only a few millimetres in diameter. As you can see, there isn't an awful lot of detail showing on the top of the loco, although the cab incorporates a roof-mounted light which on this model can be made to flash, which we'll see later during the running test. There are also directional running lights at the front and rear of the loco. I feel I also need to mention a few problems I've noticed with the bodywork during the past few months of ownership. The first involves the yellow paint on the side panel of the loco, which I found chips off quite easily. I'd only had the model a few days when I accidentally knocked it onto its side on the layout, and this very small fall chipped the paintwork immediately. I've since noticed a second chip further along the panel, but have no idea how that happened. Okay, so those chips were caused while the loco was in my care, so I take full responsibility for that. However, I also need to mention that there are visible glue marks where the thin red guardrails meet the bodywork and the running plate in various places. On my model there is also some form of disfiguration of the buffer beam where it meets the running plate at one end of the loco. Quite honestly though, the glue marks and buffer beam disfiguration are not visible with the naked eye, but once you've seen them, they remain seen. I'm operating the model using DCC, and straight out of the box the mechanism was as smooth as silk and as quiet as a mouse. If possible, after half an hour of running in each direction, the motor got even quieter. The loco is geared very realistically, so much so that the instructions warn that if you're worried about it running slowly, it is because the prototype was limited to 15 miles per hour, and that the model retains this realism. What you're seeing here is it running around my test track at top speed. At the other end of the scale, because of the realistic speed and gearing, the crawling ability of the Hunslet is absolutely amazing. In fact, it's one of the best crawling locos I've ever seen. I mean, just watch. How good is that? One of the neat features that's built into the DCC system is the ability for the loco to perform an easy shunt shuffle, or waltz movement. This is an incredibly useful thing to have if you're using Dapple's Easy Shunt magnetic coupling system. Pressing function key 2 initiates the waltz, and if the couplings had been situated above the magnetic uncoupling system, then uncoupling would have occurred. While I'm discussing functions, I'll mention the lighting facilities available on the loco. There are directional running lights which can be turned on and off in the usual way by pressing function key 0. Unlike most locos I've seen, the lights on the Hunslet have two intensity levels, which can be alternated between by pressing function key 7. Some of the Hunslets, including Big John, also feature a flashing cab roof light, which can be switched on and off using function key 1. Now, there's no getting away from it that the Hunslet is a small loco, and that means it doesn't weigh very much. In fact, it weighed in at just 34 grams on my scales, so I was a bit worried about its ability to pull a decent rake of wagons around. Here it is, reversing up to a rake of 10 Dapple dogfish wagons and a Graham Farish brake van. So, will it be able to pull them? Of course it will. Off it goes, through the tricky first radius S-curves and out onto the loop. And I've accelerated it up to top speed again. So, once around the loop, can it push the stock back into the siding? Actually, I've chosen to push the stock back into the siding with the double S-curve, just to make things a bit more tricky. The loco has excellent controllability, but once inertia mode is turned off and shunt mode is enabled by pressing function key 3, the loco is even more controllable and can be easily brought to a halt at any desired location. And stop. So, what's going on inside? Well, the instructions clearly state that there are no user serviceable parts on the PCB, and if you have a problem, please contact the NGS shop. I take this to mean, do not try and open up this loco. I get it. This is an incredibly small loco, and I imagine that there is very little space within the body shell, what with DCC decoder and stay alive, as well as circuitry for lighting, a little bit of cab detail, and of course the motor having to be shoehorned in as well. I wouldn't be surprised if once open it would be the devil's work to get everything back inside again without damaging the model in some way. So, as much as I'd like to take a peek inside, I'm still not really confident enough at the moment to open up this particular wee beastie, so I'll leave it at that. So, is it worth the money? Well, firstly, to get your hands on a new one of these, you have to be a member of the N Gauge Society. At time of review, in the UK, it costs £26 including VAT to join, but for that you also get the N Gauge journal delivered to your door 6 times a year. So, after joining, how much does it cost? Well, it costs an incredible £82 including VAT. Yes, you heard that right, only £82. This price absolutely amazes me. How a small organisation can produce a loco of this quality and specification for this price is absolutely astounding. It begs the question, why can't bigger manufacturers offer similar products for similar prices? In my opinion, this little loco has to represent the best value for money loco on the market for N Gauge modelers today. So, would I purchase the Hunslet again, knowing what I now know? Well, of course I would, and in a heartbeat. In fact, I have plans to buy at least one more, and if you are in need of a small industrial shunter for your N Gauge layout, I'd suggest you go out and buy one too. So there. Okay, as usual, I've tried to keep the review as short as possible, while mentioning as much as possible, so I hope I haven't missed anything out that you'd have liked to have heard about. Of course, I'd be very interested in your feedback. If you've got one of these models, what are your experiences with it? Are they similar to mine, or are they completely different? I'd be particularly interested to know if any of you have ventured inside to see how cramped it is in there. Let me know in the comment section, where anything and everything you've got to say will be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully there'll be another review along soon. Bye.